Okay, welcome back to a new Python tutorial. In the previous video, I explained how you can store text in a file and how you can read it back. So this is for many applications, this is quite useful, but now, especially when you have structured data, maybe a database is something which you would like to have. So I would like to go in this video now one step further and explain how you can create an SQLite database with Python and how to read also things from that database back. So this is in Python very simple, and this is also the reason why I'm explaining that. And I'm using this for many projects, or I used it for many projects in the past. So what you need for that is just a module which is, I think, since Python 2.5 part of the standard library of Python, so you don't have to install anything, and you can just use it as it is. So we can write here import SQLite 3. This is the name of the package. Yeah, just to make sure that there is no problem, you can just run it once, and if there's no error message, it means that everything is working well. And then the first thing which we would do, we would like to create an algorithm which writes or which creates the database file. It creates a table, writes something into this table, and then later we will read it out. So the first part is, of course, writing into the database, otherwise we cannot read out anything. So what you need first is to make a connection to this database. So we have to write here connect. So this is the object that we create. We call this maybe just connect, but it's just a name. You can also call it differently if you like. And then you can write SQLite 3, and the method which we will use from that is called connect. And then this takes one string as an argument, and here we have to insert the name of the database file that we want to access. So in this case, we call it maybe just database.db, but you can also call it differently. So what happens here is that we get access to this database if it exists, but if it doesn't exist, then it creates that file. And this we can simply check by running this file here, and you see now immediately a new file appears here, which is called database.db. Okay, and now the next thing which we have to create is an object called cursor, and for that we have to use the function cursor in the object connect that we create. And this cursor is actually the thing which manipulates the database, so it jumps from table to table, from row to row. And this is also the object which will take all the commands that we use to manipulate our database. And you will see that this is very easy, especially if you have already worked with MySQL or SQLite or in general with SQL commands, then you will see that it's just very simple. So what we have to do, if we want to create, for example, a table, we have to write cursor.execute and then now an SQL statement. In this case, create table if not exists. Standard way how to create a table. And then we call it maybe customers, just as an example. And here we want to create two columns. The first one is ID, the customer ID, and this should be this should be an integer. And we want to define this as the primary key of our table. And we want to always increment this whenever we insert something into our table. So we create here an auto increment. And then also our customer should have a first name, of course. So we can call that first name. This should be a text. And we have to insert something. It should be not null. And then, of course, the customer also has a last name. So this should be also text, of course. And it should be not null. And now this is our statement to create a table. And we can run this now, but I think it should not give you an error message here. You can see everything works quite well. You could now download a database browser. You could open the database and check whether everything is installed. Maybe we can do this in the next step, but for the time being, I think it's perfectly okay. If there's any mistake in the in our command, let's suppose we remove this letter here, this character, you can see it gives you automatically an error message. Okay, And then of course we created our table, but we want to insert something into our table. Yeah, so we can write here cursor dot execute. Yeah, so again we have to use this method execute, and it takes again a string, which is the SQL command, and then we have to write here insert into customers. And then, as I said, if you're familiar with SQL, you know how to do that. Yeah, so of course we want to insert a first name and a last name, and then the values which we want to store there are then again written in parentheses here behind these values. Yeah, let's suppose I will insert my own name. The first name is Mustafa, the last name would be Schmidt. Yeah, and then in principle this should be everything. Now we could run the program, and hopefully we will not get any error message. Perfect, everything works quite well. But Python does not insert anything in. I mean, the command is executed, but the insertion does not take place here. This will only take place when you commit that. So you have to write here connect dot commit. And if you do this, then really actually it's done. And then in order not to create any problems in future, you should always write connect.close. Yeah? So then the database is open before you do the manipulation with the database, writing something in or whatsoever. And then at the end, after doing that, after committing, you closing it. And now you see when we run this, there is no error message. Okay, now we want to check whether the insertion was successful. So we can read it out, reading from database. And then again, we close the database, so we have to reopen it again, and we do the same like before. Connect equals SQLite 3, connect database.db, and then again cursor equals connect.cursor. And we can also close the database again, so we will not forget that, connect.close. And here in between these statements, then we write our code. So as I said, we want to read out what we have stored before. So again, we will write here cursor.execute and then select everything from the table customers. Okay, and then actually this creates an iteratable object, which we can call maybe just result. And then we want to loop over all the rows which we are getting from that database table. So what we can write now here, a for loop for row in result. So we just, as I said, loop over that, and row is the output of each row. So what if we write here print row and we run the program, you see now it gives you 2 rows, the ID 1 and 2, and then in both cases my first name and my last name. So we can run this many times, and you can see that every time a new entry appears. And this is because we didn't check here in this command if the entry already exists. We just insert it every time when we run the code. And this is of course not the ideal case to do that. And if you want to avoid this, you have to maybe check before if this entry is existing. If yes, then don't write anything, and so on. But this requires a little bit more knowledge about SQL. And if you are interested in this, if you want to know more about SQL, please write it into the comment section. Then I will try to find some time also maybe to make some tutorials about that. But for the time being, because it's a Python tutorial, so we concentrate now on the Python function for that. So now we see that we get here this, I think it's an array which we get at the end from that. In any case, we can access these different items by, for example, writing row 0. Then we get only the 0th column, which is the ID. Or we can write here row 1. Then we get the first column, which is the first name, or row 2, and this is the 3rd column, the last name. So this works as expected. And then you can do manipulation with this tuple or with this array. And you can deal with this as if it was really data in the memory. Yeah, so everything is quite nice. However, I would like to show one more thing. Now here I want to insert it actually. Now I explained you here how you can insert things into the database. Yeah? And this is one method how to do that. There is another one which I like more because it's creating less problems, especially when you have a lot of values which you have to insert into the table. A lot of columns actually. So for that, it's another style how to do that. And in order to show how it works, we create here first an array, which is called just insertion, or you can also call it differently. And then we create here a first name, and this could be, for example, John Doe. Doe is then the last name. Yeah? And then we can write here cursor.execute, and then more or less the same what is written there. Insert into customers, first name, last name, values, and then in parentheses we have to write question mark and another question mark. And then automatically Python knows that the question mark means a placeholder, and what will be inserted is what we put now here as an array behind that, or as a list actually. So we can write here now the list will be insertion, and this is everything. So it looks a little bit easier, nicer, and especially when you have to deal with these single and double quotations, then the other method can sometimes create problems. Here in this case, this should be not a big problem anymore. So now we can run that program, and now you see that here I have to also of course connect commit, otherwise it will not be committed. And now we can run that, and you can see now we get another entry John Doe, and when we do this multiple times, it's always one after the other. So first Mustafa Schmidt, then John Doe, and then again we can do this several times, and we can create always more entries. Of course, we can also delete the database here just to show how it works. So we can run it again, and now it creates a new database here with new entries. Yeah. So this is everything what was on my list to show. Actually, this was quite fast, but as I said, it was not meant to be a tutorial of SQL, but only what you can do with SQL in combination and with Python. Yeah. So now you know how to create tables, how you insert things into tables, how you can read it back. And there are many possibilities for that, what you can do with this. Just play a little bit around with this, try the things. Big projects can evolve from that, from this simple code which you have started here. Hopefully you liked the video, you learned something new. As usual, please subscribe my channel if you have not done so far. Please hit the like button if you like the video. And if you have any questions, if you want to have further tutorials, please put it into the comment section, and hopefully see you soon back for a new video.